One. Welcome back, folks, to Cinema Alley, the show where we talk about your favorite movies and their stories. I am your host, James Howland. Always with me is the man that keep me on track, Chris Cupp. Chris, how you doing, buddy?
Hi, everybody. Doing great. My back hurts,
Doing.
but that is unrelated.
That's unrelated.
Yes.
uh, so, folks, before we get into today's show, there's a little story. Well, more or less, more of uh, a an overview that I really want to go to. So, outside this podcast, I run Twitch. I work on my writing, both as a screenwriter and a novelist. Am I good? Uh, that's why I'm working on it.
That's what practice is for.
Exactly. But you know what's scary, Chris?
What?
Is what doctors do is always called practice. So when is the big test?
Uh, Probably when
That's
the
what really
surgery table.
frightens me and makes me really not want to go to the doctor.
Okay,
It's all
here's
like,
the heart transplant, guys. Let's hope those books were right, and I don't screw this up. That's
don't do like what happened to poor Kenny and replace my heart with a baked potato.
yeah.
So
Can't do that 4 times in a row. People will get mad.
so yeah, I'm always very, very busy. We're all very busy people, and we always do our best to make time to do this podcast because we've absolutely loved doing this podcast. We love it so freaking much. If we didn't, we wouldn't be already here for Christmas time. Uh, so yeah, I'm always very busy, and my friends like Chris here and everyone from my time in film school, they're always like, you always work, you never take a day off, and that's mostly because I want to stay away from the depression because that's the thing that I fear is when I have an off day, it's like, oh, that's when the dark days come. So I always try to brighten my day up, with work. And I actually love what I do. I love modding and being a streamer on Twitch. I love doing that. I love writing day in, day out. Um, I love editing this podcast, and I love coming up with, what's the next episode? What are we filming? What stories can be told through this script? Like it's it's wonderful. And today, on usually what is a business day for me, I decided to take it off because I definitely need it coming up with some of the work that's coming. I needed a day off. So my sister, both me, her, and her husband pretty much went off to the cat show here. I've never heard of that. And the first thing I think of when I was told about, hey, you want to go to a cat show? I legit sat there and thought it was like a burlesque or like a stripper thing. And it's like, why is my sister asking me?
It's not the Cats movie, right? With the horrifying
No.
CGI. Yeah.
You know what? Believe it or not, I will take the actual stage play movie over that fucking remake. I will take watching those people in cat makeup on stage and actually doing the work. Not taking away any of the actors that, I'm pretty sure they did a phenomenal job, but God, that's CGI work. God, who the fuck thought that was a good idea? I hope they fire
Big
that fucker.
studios.
And then that guy has to
table.
carry on every time someone looks at his freaking not his discography, his filmography, and it's all like, it's like, oh, you're the guy who thought that was a good idea for Cats. It's like, God, you're fired, get out of here. I haven't hired you yet, I just fired you. But anyway, back on course. So yeah, we went to a cat show, and I'm a big cat fan. I am a big cat fan. I love my dogs too. I love any other animal other than snakes. Snakes just freak me out. It's like my Indiana Jones crutch. Why is it always got to be snakes?
Any person who's like, "Oh my god, a reptile! What a cute little face!" I'm like, "No, you're
But
holding a
but I
terrifying little
have
monster."
I have friends both online and in real life that they have pet snakes. They love snakes, and it's like, good for you, Lord Voldemort, but keep it over there.
Yep.
you know, I wish I had that. I wish I actually had that because it's a lot of confidence. It's confidence and courage to fucking have something that slithers on its fucking belly in your house and you're 100% copacetic with it. Feed it a couple of mouse, it leaves you alone. You don't get eaten for that day or poisoned. So I give them as much because I don't have the courage nor the charisma, any of that shit to fucking handle a goddamn. Give me, believe it or not, I'll ask for a Komodo dragon, and that fucker will fuck you up a lot quicker than a snake would, you know. And then people are like, "Why you want a Komodo dragon, James?" And I'm all like, "Imagine the robbery story when they tell the cop." Yeah, so I bust into this dude's house, and then this fucker had a dragon and everything. It's like I don't. It's like I don't know why he had to put the wings on it. Like just the hiss alone was enough to scare me, and
In
you
Florida,
know,
it'd be an alligator. There was an alligator in the damn tub. I just went to go take a crap
yeah, but
while it
with
was stealing his
Floridians and
place.
alligators, that's like having a dog, I would think. Like they know how to fucking handle gators, you know. I would not doubt it if they're gator wrestling and there's some dude that's all like, you know, look at me, Billy, I sat there, got him pinned in under 3, and you know, gotta don't ask me what the fuck that was. But anyway,
Damn,
uh
Cletus.
there was a lot that you know I won't go too much into the cat show, but I really enjoyed the contest. There was a lot of really cute moments. There was a lot of cats, especially kittens, that did not give two shits about being judged, you know, like the winner would put the ribbon in between like the little cage slots, so you know the owner can go there and grab it whenever they pick up their cat, everything. And there was like 3 kittens that are like, fuck your ribbons, took it down and threw it out of the freaking cage, like, I will not stand here and be judged. And then they went, because they had their numbers, their assigned numbers on the top of the cage, they're like, you know what, fuck this number too, and they knocked it down. Downright, it was like the most hilarious thing ever. There was one person doing a Facebook Live, and essentially I was doing commentary for all those people on there and everything. So it was very much fun. You know, I got to be around my favorite kind of pet, you know, where, you know, they get bursts of energy and they can be lazy at the same time. But you know what? It's like they're good company to keep. Which, you know, I kind of look at myself. I have bursts of energy. I can be lazy at times, but I'm good company to keep. I'm not sitting here saying I'm going to shit on your floor. I'm not that much of a savage. Um, but yeah, so when we were leaving, we actually picked up, and this is usually probably going to be for our video watching audience, but hopefully you guys can see it right here. The book is called The Case of the Jewel Covered Cat Statues by Cindy Vincent. Now, usually I don't go for books that are cat based, but when she was telling me on this book that it's essentially inspired by the Maltese Falcon, and me being a huge lover of cinema, also Humphrey Bogart and film noir, you know, I was like, okay, I have to get this. I have to get this. And right as we were getting ready to leave, I was just talking to the author, and we actually just had some good classic movie talk. She was surprised to see someone my age be so passionate about films of that time. She even asked me if I'd seen Casablanca. I told her, love Casablanca. And then she points to, I guess it was her husband or her business partner, saying, I tried to get him to watch Casablanca from beginning to end, and he always passes out. He's at least seen it 200 times in bits. And you know what? Like, I wasn't upset. As like, dude, I feel for you, because you know what? I can't watch ET without passing the fuck out. It's the one Spielberg movie that I constantly pass out to. Um, so yeah, like once we were done with that, I'm hopefully going to get into contact with her and pick her brain some more on some old classic cinema. Maybe we'll have her here on the show one day. Who knows, folks? Anything could happen. Um, but
Interesting.
yeah, very much interesting. And one of the cats is named Bogey, which is a nickname for Humphrey Bogart. So it all ties in. I love it. It's a Buckley and Bogey cat detective caper. Um, and apparently these books were also inspired by the Vincent Price murder mystery, uh, radio dramas back in the day. So when I read that in the back, I was like, oh, fuck yes. I was like, okay, I think I actually, it may be written for maybe not my age range, but I kind of love already where the inspirations have gone through. So you know what? I'm gonna give this book a try, and you know what? We're definitely gonna shout her out on our podcast. You know, definitely sit there and try this, um, especially if you love cats. So then after that, we ended up going to a local Mexican restaurant that my brother-in-law is friends with one of the workers there who like owns it. Had some bomb ass Mexican food, authentic, I shall say. And it's been a while since I've been this long out of the house. We were probably out of the house for maybe 3 hours or so. Now I know where I go out with Chris and everything, it's much longer, but that's because he has to come pick my ass all the way up from the other side of town. And it's like, you know what, we're gonna just spend the whole damn day together because I'm not picking you up for 2 hours and sending you home. um, which, thank you
Yep.
again, Chris. Thank you for always getting me out when the insanity is drawing near. um, but
Well,
yeah, so we had some awesome, awesome Mexican food afterwards. We went to some liquidation store. I swear to God, I've never seen so much damaged product. Like there's like it was a re-release of the Amazing Spider-Man animated series action figures, and apparently the only freaking action figure they ever had was Hammerhead, and like most of the boxes were all damaged. And like the prices that they're asking, I looked at it, I was like, these guys are fucking stupid as shit. And every day, so I got to sit there and vent out some anger on the people of my town. It's like, who the fuck's gonna buy this bullshit? And I see this one kid, look, mom, and it's like, oh dear lord. It's like, it's not even
oh, no
Spider-Man, it's
deal.
Hammerhead. It's
Oh,
like, no one wants Hammerhead. They want the Green Goblin, they want Spider-Man, they give me pictures of Spider-Man. That's what they want. They don't want fucking Hammerhead. um, there's some Hammerhead fan out there that just got insulted by me, and you're just as hard-headed as he is. The whole reason behind this story, because I wrapped the day up with a nap and then woke up, made shrimp fried rice right before we started recording. The whole reason I'm telling this, it's after today, it really did make me reflect on my life and whatnot, the life choices, and I could definitely sit there and say that I have a wonderful life, which is the reason for the movie that we picked today. It's a Wonderful Life. Chris, how was that segue? Did it feel so forced?
it felt like you were kind of like struggling to get there, and then you got there. You, you, you got the
I
point
was
across.
I was limping. I was limping to the
Yeah,
finish line. Some of the hurdles hit me,
we're
but
just like he's
yeah,
on a roll. Let's let him finish.
it's a wonderful life, folks. It's a fucking wonderful life. And that's the movie that we're going to cover. We're going to cover George Bailey, the quintessential good guy, played by Jimmy Stewart, if I remember right, Chris, right?
Yep,
It's James Stewart.
James Stewart.
James Jimmy Stewart. Jimmy boy. Jim. Uh,
I'll see
so,
ya.
yeah. You sit there and see how comfortable we've gotten with each other that we can just sit there and do weird voices and finally not give a shit if we're just being stupid. Um, but yeah, this has got to be one of my favorite holiday classics. This one's up there with no, this one actually is to me the greatest holiday classic. It's up there with uh, what was it? A Miracle on 34th Street. That's another excellent Christmas film. I tend to kind of like Christmas movies that aren't always really directly related to Christmas, but it's more directed towards what the characters go through and everything. Like it doesn't have to be Santa Claus is trying to prevent Christmas from being canceled or anything. It's like I just like me a really really good human drama. And that's what
Yeah.
this is.
I mean, I
Uh,
never considered it a Christmas movie. I was just like, it's a movie that takes place on Christmas. But
like
like,
Die
I mean,
Hard.
I guess it's more Christmassy than Die Hard, so I guess it's more of a Christmas movie. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I see what you
Yeah,
mean.
yeah. Probably right after A Miracle on 34th Street, we probably have to put Violent Night as like the third best Christmas movie ever fucking made. That's a great
Uh,
movie. That trailer missold me on the premise. I just thought it was gonna be Die Hard, and it kind of wasn't wrong neither. But man, the amount of gore, and I was like, yeah, I like David Harbour, and now they have to do a sequel where he fights Krampus. They have to do a sequel. I want to
then
see David Harbour fight Krampus.
and his sidekick will be Will Ferrell from Elf. Santa, would you?
every time that Buddy the Elf shows up and everything, he has like a fucking case of spaghetti covered in fucking chocolate sauce.
He's like, where the hell are you? You're like 6 foot tall and you're eating syrup and candy and shit. Like, it's Santa, I'm Buddy the Elf. I'm here to
It's
fix your
like,
sleigh.
But yeah, so this script is written by Francis Goodrich, Albert Hackett, Frank Capra, and Jo Swerling. We won't really get too much into these guys. Maybe on Encore we will talk about these guys. But Frank Capra is the mind behind It's a Wonderful Life. Fantastic, fantastic filmmaker. Uh, this, along with most of the classics, I think that we hold and we love, bombed at the box office. It was heavily just like it just wasn't well received. I don't know if like the critics really hated it, or maybe just at the time people were not ready for this story. But this story is now like this movie's played every Christmas. It is like one of the quintessentials, right next to Elf and Santa Claus is Coming to Town and Miracle on 34th Street. You have to watch this movie. Though I do tell you, watch the actual uh I think it's the actual theatrical release that was 2 hours, or it was a director's cut, because they did have a TV cut version, but they took what was supposed to be, I think, 2 to 3 hours long, and they cut it down to an hour and a half. So there was so much butchered. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I saw it on Tubi, and it was like the first movie on Tubi I absolutely fucking hated, because they just gutted the living shit. Like, they took as much of Clarence almost out of it. And then when Clarence shows up, it's like, what was Clarence's whole point? Because I think they cut out the whole part where Clarence is
An angel in the stars, or
well, like when they
yeah.
have this whole talk where it's the stars and everything, and it's setting everything up where this man is down on his luck. He's kind of like lost all hope for living, and we have to rejuvenate. We have to help him. We can't let him fall, because he's such an important figure to this town and this community and everything. And the angels understand that. And so they go and they talk to Clarence, and they kind of inform him. And throughout most of this film, it's at least over half this film is all flashback. Um, which, again, like, most of your screenwriting professors say, don't do that. Fucking Frank Capra and all of them did it.
Yeah.
So if
But
it
I
works,
mean,
and it benefits the story, do it. But don't just do
think
it because you just think, oh, it's cool.
I wouldn't say like flashback necessarily, like because it's all like setting up what's gonna come up later. Because like every scene, like you'll see everything that you're shown before. What happens if George isn't there? Like these are major
Yeah,
points in his life. You know.
there's a lot of setup in this, and again, it's like the one thing I've kind of noticed that kind of lacks a little bit in today's cinema, at least in the mainstream cinema. Now, when you look at independents, um, then yeah, like that's when to me you see the true heart of cinema, with storytelling. But like the mainstream stuff, they don't do a lot of setup, or they do only setup to like pay off in 5 minutes. And I was like, oh, like you can always do setup that is at the beginning and pays off much later on. Um, and that's exactly what this script does. Uh, but yes, written by Capra, Jo Swerling, Francis Goodrich, Albert Hackett. Pretty much to kind of give a little bit of a cliff notes. This is a story about not really faith, uh, but about believing in oneself. I would say um, it's about being there for others, selfless acts, and just being a good person. That's kind of just like what this whole movie is. And the cliff notes is, George Bailey's down on his luck. He's wanting to kill himself because the business and loans that he is um, running, that he took over from his father, because it was a family-owned business. It's all tanking down below, and there is this sinister, evil miser, Burgermeister kind of character by the name of Mr. Potter, who pretty much had set up our character to the point that he could be going to prison because of the misplacement of funds. George just wants to die, and he believes that the world, will be better off without him. And pretty much I think anything else would sit there and spoil. Uh, we are reading the script off of ScriptLabs. There is not really a edition of the script that said, which makes me think this is the final script, because the script was almost page for page, almost the exact thing from what we saw screen wise. And guys, definitely watch it. Definitely not watch it. Read it. Watch the movie too afterwards, but read it, because I couldn't put this thing down. I know I've said that about a bunch of scripts, but with this was one that so much of the setup and the payoff and the setup and the payoff, it fucking works so phenomenally. Uh, you feel so much for George Bailey, all the way from childhood to all the way to adulthood, and it's an all around good feel story. Because even with the holidays, we all go through that seasonal depression. Uh, which to me it's like my seasonal depression takes no time off. Ayo. But anyway.
Making light of the situation.
That's
Aren't
all
we
you got to do is laugh at
rascals?
it. Just smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave. But yeah, like I think if you ever feel down in the dumps, even if you're listening to this and you don't even practice in screenwriting or anything, just read that script. It's such a real good, it's a good feel in you. When you read this, you kind of very much relate to George Bailey, and when you finally see him overcome all these obstacles and whatnot, um, you're rooting for him at the end of the page. Just as much as when you're watching a movie, you root for the guy, and it's like yes, it's like screw you, Mr. Potter, you know. But we're gonna dive right into the hero's journey. I think we're ready, Chris. You ready for the hero's journey?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, let's
Yeah.
do it. We sit there and say like, we're about to fucking build a playground for children. Let's do it. Like that Parks and Rec episode. I love that episode. You know what I'm talking about.
When wait, Parks and which episode of Parks and Rec?
I think it was season 2, and it was when Leslie and Anne were, see, we're already sidetracking here, but oh well. It was with it was Leslie Nope and Anne. They were volunteering for, I forgot what it was called, but it was this one guy that pretty much sat there and just makes um he makes playground for children, and it's all like, you pretty much got to figure out like when
Oh
all these people
yeah,
do the volunteer work and they get all this thing set up, that I
yeah,
think essentially I think the park ended up getting demolished because apparently like he didn't get all the right papers, but like this dude just randomly goes around and motivates people to do good things, but like I think he does make some money off of it, so it's almost like a con artist, but
yeah,
not really. Like it's like he's doing good, but also he's kind of taking a little bit to the back pocket. um
yeah. I'd have to
but yeah,
rewatch that, but I think he was doing something shady, and like they couldn't get the park
yeah,
built.
but like also too, it's like these people did all this work without any park permits, and it's funny because Leslie is working in this form of government, and it's like, yeah, shouldn't he have like a permit, because like not only do you have the permit to just establish a certain area as a park, but you also you have to have a permit just to like build like a actual like playground area. I believe so. Like it has to go through. Okay, what are you doing? Making sure that I guess it's safety. Safety wise.
Yeah,
Which again, folks, watch Parks and Rec. We already sidetracked. We didn't even get into the hero's journey yet. We already sidetracked into a Parks and Rec episode. So I do apologize. But that is an episode. I believe it's season 2 or it's season 3. Um, but yeah, it's very very motivational. Yeah, like let's do this, and then Leslie for like the remainder of the episode, she's like, yeah, I want to do my own park and I want to have this and that, and it's all like it's such ambition, and then when government comes in to step in, it just fucking crushes that ambition, just crushes it.
yeah.
Like how the holidays do our souls. Oh, see, it's tied in now. We tied it all in. Yay!
Whoa, how'd you do that?
It's magic,
Oh
man.
man,
Uh,
freaking balls.
so
Uh,
yeah. Oh Jesus fucking Christ. Uh, oh my God, I'm swearing on
so
Jesus's
we open
birthday.
on
I'm
a
sorry.
screen with the sky, the stars. You see the stars starting to light up. You hear the prayers of "Please help, Daddy! Please help, Daddy! Please help George! George, he needs help during these trying times." And
Believe
yeah,
it or not, whenever I first read that, and then when I saw it, I still thought that was the oddest way to open up with angels.
yeah,
But I love the idea to not have the angels just look like angels, that they were the constellations. I thought that was genius. That was great. And it kind of felt like maybe I was on an acid trip. Like maybe I was back in the 60s or
You
something
weren't
like that.
dropping acid
Just
while watching this?
no,
Oh
no,
man.
no.
Oh
But
shit.
when reading, when watching, yeah, it felt that way. So yeah, we get this setup of George Bailey, good old George Bailey. We're seeing him at his lowest point in life. Uh, he doesn't wish to live anymore. He has no purpose, or that's what he believes. He believes he has no purpose anymore. He believes that everything has just gone downhill. There's no way he can save anything. He's going to go to prison. And these angels are answering all the prayers of George's friends and the people that he's helped throughout his entire life. And
His
it's like,
family wants to
we're
say.
gonna help George Bailey get his new lease on life, is like a brand new look and an appreciation. And so we get Clarence the Angel, where this is more of a setup that we'll pick up later on. And this is kind of where we kind of get a little bit of a nod of a Christmas Carol. There's elements of the classic tale in this, for sure. But I also kind of feel like this is its own story. I can't think of any other
This is
story
just an
before
angel's
this.
debriefing of who
Yeah,
George
yeah,
is from childhood to present day.
and that takes up at least the majority of the script is all the flashbacks. It's Clarence being informed who George Bailey was, going all the way back to being a child, where he lives in Bedford Falls. It's a town he's never been able to escape. He's always lived in it. It's a pleasant local place. It's like a good place to raise a family. And we get a lot of setup to the people that will come in later. His brother was playing on the ice and fell through, and George jumped in to save his own brother's life, saving him, but also going deaf in one ear because of the
Yeah,
cold.
got an ear
Um,
infection and kind of things got tinnitus or something, right?
yeah, I believe it's something like that. And then it kind of shows like his first job where he ran errands for the local pharmacy, and he ran the front desk ice cream place, which again, you get to see his future wife as a child and everything, and then you get to sit there and see the, I don't want to say it's a town floozy, but it's a person that does care about George
Yeah.
to a certain extent.
You see
Uh,
like the effect he has on people just like being as a kid, like, oh
just
George,
yeah,
I love you so much. It's
it's
just
that.
doting over him. And,
Yeah, and it's almost kind of like what was this? It was Ron Howard's character, almost in a sort of sense from the Andy Griffith Show, but like if he was a little bit more appeal to everyone else. But essentially, it's like the child version of Andy Griffith. That's probably a better one because everyone loved Andy. I know I'm probably mentioning a show that mostly people have probably never even watched, but I'm pretty sure you've heard the whistling tune of it.
yep.
Um, yeah, good old Andy Griffith. But anyway, back to it. One of the biggest shows in this script that shows the great amount of character, other than just him diving in the water to save his drowning brother's life, is when he works the pharmacy and the guy is a bit of a drunk. I think he lost his child, if I believe so. Lost his child to the war.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's the pharmacist, and like he's running the drugstore, and he gets a telegram saying that his son was killed in action,
Yeah,
and he's
so he's been
turned to
drinking,
drinking. Yeah, and he's too drunk to
and
notice that he put in poison in the pill
yeah,
in the drug dosage for an order, prescription order. And
and
George manages to stop him.
yeah, George manages to stop the delivery, and of course, it's like the most painful thing ever because uh, as he's supposed to be doing this errand, it's to help this child get better. He knows what's in the pill bottle, and he knows if he delivers it, what's going to happen. And he goes and he visits his dad at work, which I love how very locale and very small this town is, that like while the kid's working, he can just go visit his dad at work, and everything is like, geez, dad, what are you doing? And I
Yeah,
think it's like the uncle is working there. And this is also the first time we get a look at Mr. Potter.
Yeah.
And George Bailey, being the good spirited son he is, even sticks up to his father and points out just how mean and nasty Mr. Potter is as a person.
Yeah. You
And
don't gotta
George's
take that,
dad,
Dad.
oh yeah, he's all like,
Yeah.
you don't have to take it. And it's kind of funny because he ends up being the one to take it in real life.
Mm.
Um, or not in real life, but he's the one that ends up taking it later on in his life because it's funny because it's like it's a villain that is already what Mr. Potter had to be what maybe in his 40s 50s by now because he's an old man by the time that George is an adult, and
Yeah.
George is probably maybe almost close to his late 30s early 40s.
Yeah, I think he's in his like 30s, late 30s by the time like
Yeah. So
the present
like
day is
to
happening.
to have our hero and villain meet legit so early on in life that it's all like, it's like I'm not going to let you sit there and talk about my father that way. My father's a good man and you're not going to swindle him out of this or that or anything. And Mr. Potter just kind of has that look and everything. And we already kind of can tell these two are going to be some bitter ass enemies later on in the story. Um,
It's a great
and
setup to their rivalry.
yes, and with George uh still on his mind because he didn't even go to I think he meant to go to his father to talk about the pills of
Yeah.
all like I don't know what to do. Should I sit there and tell my boss about these that you misfilled it? And of course with all of this, dealing with what his father's dealing with Potter and battling that goon, uh and it's just the worry and everything. George ends up taking those pills back there and he ends up getting beat by his boss. His boss is just smacking the shit out of him and everything, mostly because he's drunk. But it wasn't until he apologized, saying like, I'm so sorry. It's all like,
Yeah.
I saw you, um,
Drinking his
refill and put
Tom,
the wrong thing, and yeah, he ended up saving the pharmacist's life from going to prison and losing his business and
possibly
uh,
killing someone.
yeah, and it's one of those really raw moments that's already at the beginning of the film where after beating the child and the child is like apologizing and it's all like like I didn't want to do it, I didn't want to sit there and like I know you didn't mean to, I know you're going through a tough time, whatever. And yeah, it just broke that pharmacist out of his stupor, and it's like, oh my god. And it just goes to show you just how much of a good soul George Bailey was, that at a young age he was able to turn one bitter um old man, well, somewhat old, someone that was much older than him, to sway him over. And we end up learning later on in the story that he's actually given up drinking. After that incident, he put down the bottle, he became a better person. And I do believe that that is a setup that, well, maybe Bailey can do the same thing for Potter, because we saw that with the pharmacist. And it's like, that is just the power that George Bailey has in himself. And then, of course, we get the setup with the wife uh, and everything as like a child and everything, and just how well, they communicate with each other, even as children. They're
Mhm.
very, very smart for kids, which,
Yeah. So
today that probably wouldn't have passed way too much. I don't really think that they would
I
probably have a
mean,
kid be that wised up.
kids.
Clever, yes, clever. Today, kids are much more clever than kids were back then.
They're
But
more like accessible to information, but I feel like kids back then were definitely more like, encouraged to like go and learn because there's
yeah,
really there wasn't TV to turn on and
you didn't have
disappear into for
PBS.
years. Yeah, I mean there wasn't like Saturday morning cartoons back in the 1930s and 40s. So, but like yeah, you get a good sense of who he is and like what he wants. He's like telling young his young future bride that I want to travel. I want to see the world. I want to have a harem. Did you hear that? He's like, I want to have a harem of my own. Like, I'm like, kid, did they know what a
talk
harem
about
was?
talk about
Like,
dreaming big, right? Like,
so, but like, yeah, they did a great job of like introducing who George was and what kind of person he is, like, and what he's gonna grow up to be before we do the next time jump.
well, even then, like throughout most of the ordinary world, like we see him as his child form, and then we see him in high school where like, you know, where is it you want to be? I want to travel. I want to be I want to be a architect.
Yeah.
You know, I want to see the world. I want to do this. And he even tells it to his wife and everything. It's like, you know, it's like, I want to see the world. I want to see Paris. And, you know, he essentially does not want to live forever in Bedford Falls. He's done, from what his belief is, he's done everything he can in this town, and he cannot progress any further as a person if he stays in Bedford Falls.
And who could blame him,
And
man? Who wants to like you know everyone's got that like point in their lives where like I don't want to stay in the town I grew up in. I want to get out of here and like go live my own life and
I
carve my
definitely
own
feel
path.
that, even though I'm more or less a town away now from my hometown, because I lived in my hometown for 27 years,
Yeah.
about 27 years, everything, like 27 and a half. And then I lived, you know, I just moved over a town over, but yeah, you know, didn't really change all that much. So hopefully maybe I'll get the George Bailey treatment. Well, no, I don't want to stay here. No, I want the opposite treatment. I want to go to Paris and all that. You know, that's where I want to go.
Let's go to
I could
Italy.
still,
Paris
I could
stinks.
still be. Yeah, that's definitely one of the places I want to go to. Italy. I want to go there and I want to see the vineyards. Anyway, back on track. Uh, it's a Wonderful Life. Oh my god, we'll talk about Italy in the B show. But yeah, yeah, he wants to travel the world. We get all that set up very well done, and it's not forced. And I really, really kind of wish that a lot of films took liberty with this. It kind of feels like everything has to be, no, it has to be cut here. We start where, right when, you know, this happens here, and it's like, you know what, I like films that are like this. And like Rocky took its time setting up the world and its characters, and all made it entertaining. As long as you can make it entertaining, folks, I do believe you can probably get away with anything as long as it's entertaining. And this is to see a kid um sacrifice his life and go out and put himself out there to cover another man's life. You know, the George Bailey is a real life superhero. And this moves over to the Call to Adventure, where George's father unexpectedly dies of a stroke. So his whole dreams of going to college, being an architect, and traveling the world have been essentially put on hold so he can go run the business and loans. There's a little bit of kind of what we skipped through. And
Like
folks, when we go through there, if you guys have obviously seen the movie, it's like, well, wait, they didn't mention this, they didn't mention that. This is a very, very long movie with a lot to go through. And so for the people who are new here, I kind of hope that this kind of gives you guys a little bit more of a push to either read the script, uh, and then go watch the movie, or if you don't want to read the script, go watch the movie. Because there is so much to absorb. There are tons of characters that they all serve a purpose in this story. But for the sake of time, you know, we'll be here for like what, 3 hours if we really went scene by scene and everything. We probably go about the same length as the movie, if not longer. But yeah, George's father dies of a stroke, and George is voted. George is voted to take on his father's position at the building and loan, and keep it safe from Mr. Potter.
and he can't
And
leave because like if he does
yeah,
leave, they're gonna side with Potter and close it down,
yeah,
and a lot of
but
people are gonna lose their investments and stuff.
because Potter, I think, was part of a board, if
Yeah.
I remember. I think there was like a board of trustees, and Potter was on there, and essentially all what Potter wants. So there is this setup here that's, we kind of missed at the back. Um, he essentially wants to own all the property. He doesn't care about the buildings, but he wants to own the properties. That's pretty much his whole thing. He just wants to buy it all up, because what George stands for is, while it's still capitalism, he wants to help people out, even when he didn't want to be part of this business, because it's what his father did. So he kind of borrowed a bit of his father's ideology of, um, we want to sit there and help the community, because we are just as important to help the community grow, to make, you know, to like, you know, bring in, oh my god, I am losing the train. It's more or less, it's like, it's not corruption, but it's to bring in people who want to raise families and be safe, and, you know, a
Get out of
wonderful place
from
to
under
live.
Potter's
Yeah,
thumb, because Potter controls the
the
slums that they were
lands.
living in, and like
Yeah,
he's got a really like kind of it's got people set up in a really crappy apartment living and stuff like that, and
yeah.
he the only way to like get them out.
Who can like barely even sit there and make the rent. So
Yeah,
that's what Potter very much represents, you know, the extreme side of capitalism. This isn't like an anti-capitalist film because, you know, George Bailey and his family run a business and loans. You know, that's they got to make money to keep the lights on and to help these people and to me I think that they are the better side of capitalism where it's like, yeah, we got to make a business, but also too, we want to make your life better.
yeah. Potter's
You
definitely
know,
like the
we want to make it a little bit easier because we all understand we all have a tough life. Where
yeah,
Potter just cares about money.
ultimate
He cares about
like
money and control.
ultimate personification of like what greed does to a person. Like it turns them
Yes,
ugly and like cripples them, and just like it's very much greed personified there.
it's Ebenezer Scrooge blew up to a much more bigger proportion because where
And
Scrooge only owned one business and treated his employees unfairly.
it's funny that
He
you
had
mentioned
some
that
fairness.
because the actor who
Yeah,
played Potter in this played Ebenezer Scrooge later.
really.
Yeah,
Yeah. What was it the 40 46? No, I think I'm getting my years wrong with it. I think I know which one you're talking about, but yeah, it's the year is fleeting me on what year that of that adaptation. But yeah, essentially that's what he is. He's a blown up version of Ebenezer Scrooge. Um, and with that call to adventure, there comes a refusal to this because George doesn't really want to stay in Bedford Falls. He has dreams, he has aspirations, he wants to travel, he wants college, but in order to save the people that George's father had saved, George must take on this, but it's only temporarily because this is only for Harry, his brother that he saved. It's for him to go off to college. It's like let him go to college, let him get his degree. He'll come back and take over, and then George can go to college because the money that was supposed to be used for George to go to college, George gave it to Harry. It's like take this, and that kind of backfires. There are certain things, as much as George does it out of the kindness of his heart, and that it is a good moral, upstanding thing, it does backfire on George
like
because
you
you know
see the
George wants to
regret
make
on his
sure.
face. Like, oh
Yes,
crap! Like now I'm gonna be stuck here longer because Harry
yeah,
just comes back and he's engaged and he's got another job lined up.
yeah.
So, damn.
So it's further. It's essentially put the cement blocks on George Bailey's feet of like, no, you're excuse me folks, sorry, you were stuck in Bedford Falls. uh and even but like, you know, it's not that like Harry's like all happy about it. Like Harry does feel some remorse because it's like I was supposed to take over so you could go enjoy your life, and I got, you know what, I'm pretty sure he went to like a 3-year college, 3 or
Yeah.
4-year college, somewhere around there. And he got to enjoy his life, he got to do what he wanted to do. And later on he ends up Harry ends up enlisting in the military. Uh,
Well,
and
yeah. The war happens.
yeah, the war happens, and even when George tries to go, George trying to again do a good thing, and because of his tinnitus in the ear, he was sent back. So while this whole time that Harry is going out and becoming a war hero, George is running the company. And even then, it still kind of stings, you know, George, that it's like, well, why the hell does Henry get to fucking sit there and go live the life? Why does he get to go have the adventures? Why does he get to go? Because essentially, Harry got the two things that George wanted. You know, Harry got to go to college, and then Harry got to go see the world. The world.
Yep.
Now he had to go through a war just to go see the world, but nonetheless, he got out of Bedford Falls, and it really is a good kick in the shins to poor George. You
Yeah.
know, it's
He lost his opportunities. All the opportunities that he was going to take, like he had to give them
exactly.
up. And
And
he's the personification of envy, like jealousy. Like
yes,
that's his flaw. Is like he's jealous of everyone around him, and not able to see like all the good he's done.
yeah. and it's that tunnel vision. He's got that tunnel vision. And when we get over here to meeting the mentor, it's kind of a funny thing because George doesn't really meet his mentor in the first act. He doesn't meet him until around the middle of the second act with the ordeal. But we do have the wife, Mary, who obviously points down the beauty of starting family life. Uh, and again, I love their
Courting.
interactions when they're much older, when they're out of high school, and obviously Mary has a thing for him. Mary loves him to death. Who wouldn't love George?
George has
Uh,
such low self-esteem that he
yes,
keeps like trying to say, "Well, what about that guy? I thought you and him would make a good couple." And like he's
and
just always putting himself down.
yeah, and with Sam Wainwright, who that was what Mary was supposed to marry because of her mom. Mom did not want George Bailey because mom wanted her daughter to marry a man that was going to be rich, and going to be big. And Mary didn't want that. She wanted George, which again, like, you root for him still, even though he's looking down on himself. You still root for him because it's like, yeah, you got the girl, man. Yeah, you put one over on on the rich kid. But like Sam's also not that bad of a guy.
Yeah.
But you feel for him whenever George goes to visit because his mother essentially sends him over to Mary's. Mary's mom's like, I don't fucking want him over here. And Mary's mom is like a fucking nosy ass nobody that should get her
Mary
nose
is
bopped.
hilarious though too, because like you hear what she's saying, like, "Who is it? It's George, and we're making love down here."
Yes,
She's hilarious,
doing
man.
everything to piss her mom off, and it's like, and yeah, it's so funny because as much as George looks down on himself, and sometimes George does have some humor to him, Mary is obviously the humor. She's the one that definitely keeps George going, um, even when things get tough. It's she's that person that kind of helps them kind of realign of like, yeah, we're maybe not getting this, but look at this, you're doing an even greater opportunity. And yeah, when Sam calls up on the phone, and then Mary's all like, oh yeah, George Bailey's here. It's like, George, put him on the line. And then it's like,
George.
George, you ain't thinking about taking my woman now, are you? And he's like, well, I
No,
don't
why
know,
would I?
like why would I? And
No.
and then of course it's like this whole thing where Mary doesn't want Sam. She wants George, but she doesn't want to come off as like, take me, George, take me. No, she wants George to make the initiation. And so when he finally leaves, when she's on the phone with Sam, still, and he kind of gets there, it's like something really kind of snaps in his brain, not in a bad way, but it's all like, no, gosh darn it, like I'm gonna take something and it's gonna be quote unquote mine and everything. And watching him go back and then kiss her right as Sam is still on the phone with her, just drops the line right there and just flat out kisses her, and it's like, yeah,
Look,
he
I
got
don't
the
want a
girl.
family. I don't want to get stuck here, and
Yeah,
I don't want any of that. I just like want you. And then they
yeah,
like cut to them getting married, and then Black Tuesday or something
yeah. And
happens.
they're already having like their first kid because they
Yeah.
have three, if I remember right. They have, I think, two boys and a girl, if I remember correctly. Yeah,
I don't
there's
remember.
three kids. I know that because I
Yeah,
know
there's one playing the
at the very end. We don't want
piano.
to get to the very
Yeah,
end with the iconic line, but that does have his daughter, which I do believe is the middle child, if I do believe so.
uh,
Um, but yeah, so that's more or less the meaning of the mentor. It's more of, instead of it being more of Clarence comes in to drop some some info and give some words of wisdom. No, it's Mary sitting there telling him, it's like, I know you feel like you're stuck here, but it doesn't always have to be, bad. Like, we can make some good out of what it is,
there-
and
she buys the old crappy house that she loves and George hates, and
yeah,
she's like, "We could turn this into a home."
and that's what they did. Uh, and it's so funny because it's like, oh, why did you want to live in a crappy home like that? And he throws a rock right through the freaking window. It's like, no, George, don't. And It's like it's
Well,
like oh my god, the
they
irony in
threw
that
the
old
wish.
scene with
Yeah, they threw the rocks to make a wish, and she wished to be with George, and she
hmm
got her wish.
yeah. And but again it's set up right there because when we see them in their high school years, he throws the rock through it,
Yeah.
and she makes that wish. Then you come back to after they're married and everything, they buy the house, or she does and everything, and yeah, the crushing of the threshold here. It's George is he's settled now. It's settled. Mr. Potter is essentially trying to buy out the building and loan, and George is fighting him. It's the same scene in which George walked in on for his father back when George was a child. And
Yeah.
Mr. Potter is like, well, you know what? It's like senior didn't budge. Let's see what junior's got in him. And even Potter is all like, he dives it in deep that uh, it's somewhere around the around that I think like he calls him like a failure, and he's no good.
Well, I mean,
He
I think he was like, I thought I remember him like kind of using honey instead of the stick, like kind of buttering him up and saying like, "Look, you've done a
yeah,
great
he
job."
tried that, but George just kept batting him off. It's like, no,
Yeah,
I'm not giving this up. And then he ends up getting nasty with them,
yeah,
And it's funny because George got nasty with as a child, and now it's coming right back to haunt George. It's all like, well, it's like, you know what? I'm gonna get this freaking business, and I'm gonna get the land, and I'm gonna own everything. Uh, it's a battle that it's one of the many battles that Potter and George will have. We could sit there and say back when George was a kid and he stood up for his father right in front of Potter that was their first battle. Um, but I do believe it's right here. This is the very actual first battle. Like this is when George is in his dad's seat, running the company, and George is not going to sit there and let him run all over him. It's like no, it's like this is mine, and we're doing good here, and Potter's more or less going to keep an eye out now because he's like it's like I did it my nice way. Now I'm going to do anything and everything to get your ass thrown out of here, and I can own this property and own this company.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, a fucking nasty ass asshole. Well, I never mind. That's a little TMI. I was about to go into something totally different.
Don't want to go
Um,
down that little hole
don't
there.
want to go that hole. That's what
Oh
she
wow!
said. Don't want to go down it.
Wrong hole!
Oh my
Wrong
god.
hole!
Oh my god, Chris. This is Christmas, and we're making backdoor jokes. We're going to hell.
I love the back door. It's so much easier and
He
private.
said that, not me. He said that. James Howe of Sound Mind and Body.
I'm a dirty mind though, so
Oh my god! Look at him; he's already drinking.
Diet Mountain
But
Dew, baby. 0 calories. Yeah.
all right, so then we go into our test allies and enemies. We actually meet some more friends of George. We've already more or less met the enemy, but the enemy does pop his head up as well. But yeah, so the allies. So George continues to battle Potter, and through George's business and loan things, he was able to help Ernie the cab driver and Bert the cop. Um, there is a restaurant owner by the name of Mr. Martini that he let him borrow enough money to get a house for his family, which going back to what Chris Scepter said about the slums that Potter owned, that's where Mr. Martini came from. And he ended up coming to George for help because, again, Potter was just, having these outrageous prices. They couldn't make the rent and they were evicted and they needed somewhere. They needed somewhere to go. Um, and I think this is when Bailey started to get the idea of a park. Like there was going to be like a George Bailey's park, and it was going to be not that far from this new neighborhood because it's where George's house is. But then there'd be more houses being built up. Mr. Martini would be his neighbor,
Yeah.
and their children would grow up together in the future. Um, but there would be a park nearby that it's kind of George's little pet project. It's kind of like that thing of like I won't be able to do this and that because I got to run this company, but there is this park idea that he does have. And George kind of makes that like, it's like, well, you know, if I'm going to be stuck here, he's at least trying to look at some of the positives of like, well, you know what, I'm going to have a park. And yeah, that's pretty much where a lot of this sets up. Again, it's Potter trying to get Bailey to give up the business, and uh, you know, Bailey's like, no, I'm not gonna. You know, you can keep coming every day of this damn week, and you can keep asking me, and I'm just gonna keep saying no and watch you. Because at this time he's in a wheelchair. He's like, you know, he's like, I can just watch you wheel right off, and you know, probably cuss him out under his breath, and uh, it's a pretty quick, you know, it's more set up to where we're getting to the modern day in which the story takes place. But we kind of go and we kind of rush through with how he makes friends with Ernie the cab driver and Bert the cop, which again they're wonderful characters that you see in the story that pop up, and they always do something for George to help him out because George helped them out. And yeah, you know, you don't see communities or anything like that much anymore. A community like this, definitely, it's rare. I wouldn't sit there and say that it doesn't exist anymore, but it's very rare to sit there and find small towns like this. At
Yeah,
least the small towns here in Texas, to me, they're much more quiet and isolated. Like everyone is left to their own agenda, and it's like, we don't want to deal with the fucking neighbors. We're all crabby old people, even when we're
yeah. You
20 and
you won't
30.
see that unless you get out to like Livingston or on Alaska or Montgomery, like just the outskirts of Houston, in between Dallas and Houston.
I
You
am
won't
on
see
the
that.
outskirts of Houston, and where I'm at here
You're on the
personally, like, okay, so where I'm at, I actually do have some friendly neighbors, you know,
yeah,
but like it's nowhere near the level of George Bailey's Bedford Falls.
yeah.
Um,
It's the ideal like
so
1940s. Like howdy neighbor, like hey, yeah.
it's like, say how to me one
Everybody
more
knows
fucking damn time, being from Texas. I hate when people say that to me. Howdy, neighbor. It's like, we ain't in a fucking 1800s. Just fucking say hello like a decent human being. See, that goes to show you, not even I could fit in Bedford Falls because I'd be that crabby ass neighbor. Morning, neighbor, piss off. And then it's like, all right, neighbor, and he just walks right on off.
you.
Oh my god. But back to back to our story. So yeah, the approach, and this is right when we're leading to the current timeline, where we see George getting ready to essentially lose all hope for life. But in the approach, Uncle Billy accidentally misplaces $8,000 of the building and loans money. This is what they owed the bank, and it winds up in Mr. Potter's hand, and he steals it. And this risks the bank, this risks the building uh, bankrupting, and George and Uncle Billy are could be arrested for misplacing funds. And this is pretty much what pushes him off. I know we just sat there and fucked up the whole thing with the wedding, but I know Chris mentioned it earlier with on their wedding day. Um,
George gave up all
Mary
his
and
money.
George were supposed to go on their honeymoon, which was going to be outside, I think, of Bedford Falls, but
I think they were
they
going to Hawaii.
George had to ended up going to work to save the bank. I think from going under, and yeah, like that pretty much goes all the way to Ernie and Bert, because I do believe that they were one of the people that needed the money, and George was able to help them. And when George was in the middle of helping them, that's when Mary went to go buy the house, and yeah, and
Just
then
kind of
that's where.
fix it up
So
into
we
shit
just
talk.
fill in the gaps a little bit from what we missed with Test Allies and Enemies. I do apologize. I completely forgot. I was like, well, wait, we didn't talk about this magical moment where George legit has to give up his honeymoon just to do this. But
Yep. And
you
if
know,
y'all
again,
aren't familiar, the day like he's trying to do this on is like, I think it's their version of Black Monday or Black Tuesday, like when the stock
Black
market
Friday, you mean?
crashes. Not Black
Yeah.
Friday, but like it was
Oh,
like
oh, oh, you mean, yeah? I think
when
that
the
was
Great
yeah, that was
Depression
Black Tuesday.
begins, sort of.
Yeah, because that's when the Great Depression goes through.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, yeah. So now that we're caught up now, the approach. So yeah, when you know, Uncle Billy misplaces it, this is like the first time that we actually really see George get mad, and
Yeah.
you know, he grabs hold of his uncle, and he tells him, he grabs hold of his uncle and he tells him, you know what, like I'm not going to jail because of you, because of your mistakes, and um, this is when George is like he goes and gets himself a couple of drinks and he makes his way to a bridge and
Well, he
and no
goes home
means
first, and
yeah, he goes
like,
home first and he like fucking blows up at his family.
yeah,
The oldest son is trying to learn to play oh my god, I forgot the name of the song, but they used it in the Peanuts. um
it's the
uh
piano, but like he
all,
calls the piano teacher and
all
yells at
long
her.
sing, I think it's All Long Sing or something like that. It's a classic Christmas tale. Hark the angels free, glory to the new Lord. Something that goes to show you I don't even remember it. I watch the
I
Peanuts
don't,
Christmas
I
thing
don't know
every year.
church hymns. I don't know
Is
what
it
they are.
considered a church hymn? I guess it. Yeah, I
I
guess it
think it
would
might
be.
is. I
That's
remember
probably like
hearing
the
it at
one though that
church.
most people would probably know because if they grew up watching the Peanuts or grew up watching this, they would know that song because it's such an iconic song. But I never always. Well, yeah, I guess that one time I did go to church on Christmas, which was rare. We did sing that, um, but yeah. So yeah, like George believed he's worth more being dead than alive, and which was pointed out by Potter. And George contemplates suicide after blowing up against his family and leaving. And I mean, it's such a different look because even through some of the toughness that George has gone through with Potter and with his life and him being stuck in Bedrock Falls, he's never once lost his cool. But this right here, the misplacement of 8K, that really just fucking just blew the lid, and George just couldn't do it. And
It's like losing $1 million today.
yeah.
Like,
Looking at the inflation, yeah, that's like losing $1 million today, and George is just losing his ever loving mind, and he lashes out at his wife and children and his own family, and it's where he approaches, the bridge, and he's getting ready to go kill himself, and uh, which I do believe there was a law enacted back then where if you actually were caught doing that, you would actually go to prison regardless. Um, it's kind of like a moral law or something like that. I do know that I think it was over in the UK at a certain era when that law was enacted. Like, yes, this is like the US, but I remember that there was a similar cause where I think they did have like a string of suicides, and I want to say I think it was the 1830s or so. So this is like 100 years. No, could not be the
suicides or
1830s.
like murders, like
No,
disguised to look
suicides.
like
Like
suicides, like
if you were caught committing suicide and you were saved, or
yeah,
you were caught in the process of it, you went to jail because it was a crime against, I guess it was like
I think
social
like
morality of
like
like like
you're disrespecting God. Like I know the church like considers suicide
there's
a
a
sin and
religious
you'll go
side
to
of it, but
hell.
I think also part of it is like we don't we don't really want people that are like that mentally around here because it's bad for society, because it'll, in a sense, if you have a very, well, it's like if you have a bad day, you can
But
easily kind of push that influence on a second person's, and
yeah,
that can travel. So I guess it's more the fear that if you had suicidal thoughts, and I'm talking very loosely here because in my brain I used to know it because I learned it from Vampire and I looked it up and it was an actual law, but I forgot what time that was. But if you were caught, especially if you had a suicide note, even if you weren't doing it but you were contemplating it, you could still go to jail for it. You could serve
it's
prison
kind
time.
of
So
messed
in a
up.
sense, yeah, it
like
is kind of messed up because
like
it's more,
oh, let's like just make my day worse by sending me to jail
yeah,
instead of actually getting me the help I need.
it it's like a moral law or so that obviously that's not used today because a lot of people go through this stuff, and so if they did that, believe it or not, there'd be more freaking jails probably built around, we'll be closer to 1984. um but yeah, so putting that in mind, George knows if he does this and he gets caught, he can also go to jail for that too. So he has like two sides of the coin here. It's go to jail because of the misplacement of funds, or go to jail for attempted suicide. Um, you know, uh, I'm gonna have to like look it up, and we're gonna have to talk about it on Encore about this law. I gotta write that note down for us. But yeah, so just as George is getting ready to jump, boom, here comes Clarence. Fucking falls straight from the sky, went right into the water. And what does George do? George does what every good, Samaritan, or at least what George Bailey does. George saves Clarence. He gets him out of the water. Um, and there's like this one guy in some hut. I
I think
forgot
it's like
what.
the dock worker or something.
Yeah, I
Sees them and
believe
helps them.
so. And uh, he has Clarence up by the fire, and they're all trying to warm him up, and it's all like, what were you doing in the river? It's so cold. And there were nods of this supposed law without outright speaking it, that something about I would have to contact the law if you were thinking about jumping or something like that, or it's something along they dance around it, but they don't outright say it. And so that's when I realized, it's like, oh, I didn't know that the US had that law. I just thought it was of that specific era and time over in London and I guess the UK and all that, where there was a moral law of, if you were caught doing this specific act, you could easily go to jail. So I did not know that that law extended off over here to the US. I guess there was a surge of people pulling that, which, today we're a little bit more accepting of people's struggles. But yeah, so, George is over here listening to him. It's like, you're an angel. And Clarence is here to um, show him, um, all the good that he does. But George is still, he's moping and, just drooping, got his head in between his shoulders, which really George always has, but he just hasn't been this low. He's always kind of been a bit of a mopey character. Um, but he's also done great things. So you look at the positives a little bit more than, his flaws, even though his flaws are constantly being challenged. Um, but yeah, when George sits there and tells Clarence that he wished that he was never born, this gives Clarence the idea. And this is where, to me, again, another moment of A Christmas Carol is brought up. Clarence shows just exactly what would happen if the world did not have George Bailey in it. And we go through the entire life. Harry would have died as a child.
You would have
He would
drowned
have
in that
drowned.
lake.
The pharmacist would have killed that child and went to prison.
Yep.
Mary would never have been married. She would have actually become she would be a librarian and a spinster.
Yeah.
Uh, his mom, the house that they grew up, that whole house with the family and everything, she ends up turning that into a boarding house.
Hmm.
Um, and Mr.
Potter
Martini never.
takes over the
Mr.
town.
Martini, yeah. There is no Bedford Falls. Potter turns it into Pottersville, and all of those good mom and pop shops, those good, honest, hardworking. Not sitting there saying in Pottersville there aren't good, hardworking people. It's just this film was sitting there showing that if Potter took over, he would bring in the seedy kind of people, the shady kind of businesses.
Turning
So
it into like
like
casinos,
Mr.
strip
Mr.
clubs.
Martini's restaurant the Bailey family goes to and supports, that's like a bar, and
Oh, it
it
was
looks
always a
all
bar,
different. Yeah,
but
but there were more bars here. There were, um, obviously, probably brothels, street workers.
mhm.
It's the nasty, seedy side. But in all honesty, in every good town, as much as you have your good mom and pop joints, your honest, hardworking American, good core values, you're always going to have that side of the town that it's like it looks seedy as ever. And in all honesty, that used to be probably the good side of town, and then the town moved over to the other side, and because it needed to expand, and then that side of the town just kind of died out, and that's where you know that's just life. That's just life. Uh, but yeah, so George gets to see this. He can't believe what's happened. He ends up chasing Mary and says, like, like, what, like, why don't you remember me? And that ends
Where are
up
our
getting the
kids?
yeah, our kids. And she's like, I don't know you. And it's almost like Bobby. It's
Yeah.
all like, it's my purse, I don't know you, and just fucking kick him in the balls. And that
She's like
didn't
not
happen to
attracted to this
George.
crazy man at all. So like it's clear like the attraction started when they were kids.
So he ends up getting chased by cops. He gets into Ernie's cab. Ernie doesn't even know who the fuck he is, and so he has them drive them to what was supposed to be the home of marrying them, which is just an abandoned home. Uh, and Bert the cop's there, and Bert's all like, "Is everything okay?" Because obviously Ernie put up a sign and everything that there was something kind of going on, and Bert followed. So it even goes to show you that even Bert's friends, in a life that George never lived. Did I say Ernie?
You
I
said
just
Bert.
noticed Bert and Ernie. I wonder if that was inspired by Sesame Street's Bert and Ernie.
Could be.
I'm sorry, folks. I just had like a brain bubble fart, and
I
it's
never
like,
watched Sesame Street, so like,
can you tell me how to
but
get the voices to stop?
no.
Oh
But
god. But
we
anyway,
get to the house and they're trying to arrest George, and Clarence stops them and like is able to let George get away.
and it's funny because when George does that, and they're all like, "It's like, who are you? How'd you get here?" And it's all like, I was like, "I guess you just got to arrest me." And it's like, "What the fuck, Clarence?"
Remember, he
I
disappears,
love
doesn't
Clarence.
he?
Clarence is like one of the best funny characters in here. Right next to like when you get to know everyone, you don't really get to know Clarence all too much, other than that his whole mission here is it's supposed to give him his wings, help George Bailey, and you'll get your wings. And again, when Clarence like pops up and everyone's like, "Who are you? How'd you get in here?" I don't know. I guess you got to arrest me. And it's like, who the fuck does that? It's like I like look at it. It's like it must be another loon, like the guy that we're chasing. And yeah, as Bailey's running away and the cops are chasing him, Clarence does give him his wish that it's like I want to be back in Bedford Falls. I wish I was born and everything.
Oh my
And
life
pretty much
back.
all of this is kind of like the Ebenezer Scrooge thing of he's being uh he's being taught a lesson that even though things do not sit there seem to be going their best right now, looking over your entire life, you have been the betterment of an entire town. You've helped everyone. You were able to help them with their businesses, able to help them buy houses or build their own houses, and so that they can own them and not be owned by a greedy miser who just wants to sit there and up taxes. And I was watching a video while cooking uh, before this about how there are parallels to Jesus and the Devil between George Bailey and Mr. Potter, where it seems like George can do no wrong. George is always doing something for someone. He's like so pure, and then obviously Potter is there to tease him. About like, you don't have to sit there do this. You can go do your college and you're traveling and everything. Just lend me Bedford Falls and you can have that. And what was it? There was when I was watching this one video that actually talked about Mr. Potter, and they sit there and they said that Mr. Potter is actually supposed to be kind of almost like the physical manifestation of the Great Depression, where it's like it's hard times on everyone to live, and this crash is supposed to pretty much just kind of strip everyone of their homes and everything, and they're all struggling. They're just trying to sit there and keep meals in them and a roof over their head, which I thought was pretty interesting. I know, yeah, I'm dropping like an analytic thing right in the middle of a hero's journey, but I do like some of these parallels that some film historians and some film analysis people actually drop here, and you kind of like look at it and it's like, oh, you know what, it does make kind of sense. uh you know though I think if you just sat there and said it, if this movie came out today and people say George Bailey's like Jesus Christ, oh god, like fucking Christians all over the world, how dare you say that? And it's like, shut the fuck
Oh
up.
Lord.
And um so yeah, after the ordeal, the reward, George sees Mary. His wish gets granted again, that he wished that he lived again. And we're back here in the road back, the road back, which again I call it the three R's. You got road back, resurrection, and return. George runs through Bedford Falls, loudly wishing everyone and everything a Merry Christmas, even Mr. Potter. And like, tell me, like, God, that screams a Christmas Carol. There's a whole lot towards the end of this. It's a Christmas Carol. Um, and even as the cops are going to the home uh, to arrest George, George just does not care. He's like, I want to say goodbye to my family first, and so the cops are able to oblige that. I'm like, yes, because also too, his I think his daughter's been sick throughout the majority of the film.
Yes.
In the current thing, yeah, no, wasn't a daughter. I think it was the youngest son. He had been sick. He's more or less like in the background. Like there's not really a whole lot that kind of gets explained. Really, the kids are like all in the background. But there is one kid that's been sick. George goes to him and is thankful for everything, and he's just showing the love. He's hugging his wife. He's hugging his children. It's almost like his goodbye, because he's all like, I know I'm going to go to jail because we just can't raise those funds because we lost the money all entirely. And then in the resurrection, um, we have that the arrest warrant is useless, and Potter's plan is foiled again because Sam the town comes and pays out the bail. They're giving him all the money so that George doesn't get arrested and is taken away. That essentially in his time of need, the town came in and helped him. Which
Yep.
again, like we're talking about, like they fucking filled the whole first floor. There were people on the stairs. There were even people outside the house, and they
Yep.
were all there to support
Bringing in
George
baskets of
Bailey.
cash to help them
Mm-hmm.
recoup what he lost.
All the little extra cash that these people, and they've all done it because George has sat there and done that to them. He has loaned money to them, and they were able to pay it back in
They were able
full.
to become wealthy.
And yeah, he's wealthy at heart. And then what makes it even better is Sam Wainwright, who we met during uh, George and Mary's teen years and everything. And it does get brought up as well throughout the film with Sam's like, oh, Sam's like rich and everything down in Florida. He has his own business. And even like George kind of does sometimes snap. It's like, well, maybe you should have married him then if you wanted all this money. Uh, and it's not the point that that the wife was trying to make. She was just sitting there, it's like there's just someone from her high school that was able to you know make something of themselves outside of Bedford Falls. And I think it's a little bit of the wife. It's all like, maybe if we did get out, maybe we would have made something a little bit bigger for ourselves, but she's still happy to be where she's at now because she has a family and she has George. But anyway, so Sam comes in, and Sam goes and helps with the bank issue. He drops $25,000 to cover the 8 grand um, that I believe, and I think whatever excess. But yeah, it was to secure the building and loans future,
Yep.
to make sure. So he dropped the money. Sam was able to help him, and everyone's celebrating, except for Potter, because Potter's a fucking bitter asshole. Um, and this is like one of those one of those films where like the bad guy doesn't get arrested for taking the money or anything. His plans are just foiled, and it kind of like makes you kind of wonder how many more battles would he have with George. Like, would he try something else, even though he knows that the building and loan is secure now for the future with that money? It's
Well, I
like
think because like throughout the entire movie, he's like trying to get the bank to like demand the building loans, like pay up everything they owe immediately, and he knows that the building loans can't do it. So like that's why like they're always scrambling, like, oh, we have to get the money, and like, oh man, we have to stay open. As long as we have his money in the building, we're good. But
mm-hmm.
like if he's paying off like that much money and giving them that much money to secure their future, Potter's pretty much probably like defeated at that point, you know.
Yeah.
And I
But
mean,
you kind of figure for someone that has spent as long as he has, of like what, almost 40 years to try to get that, like I kind of figured that man would just keep fighting until the day he dies. He
probably,
would try
but
to
like
figure out,
more
but
it's less likely now.
yeah, but yeah, so they end up uh uh they end up celebrating and everything. And once we get to the return, we get like like the thanks to for his successful George project. Clarence gains his wings, and there is, I think it's The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, that was Clarence's favorite book and everything.
I thought it was
Clarence
Huckleberry
leaves.
Finn.
Huckleberry Finn. I knew it was marked. It was a Mark Twain book.
They're
I
both
knew, folks. I knew.
pretty similar. Like, I
Are
mean,
they? Believe it
well,
or
I
not,
mean,
I've never
they're
read
both.
Huck Finn. And the only time I've ever really saw a story based on Huckleberry, no, I was about to say Huckleberry Hound, uh, Finn and the other person I said was like Tom and Huck, and that was like in the 90s.
Yeah,
That was like the only time. Yeah, I'm trying to say Huckleberry Hound now. I'm sorry.
yeah.
I got Hanna Barbera on the brain.
I mean, I remember Tom Sawyer popping in at the end of the book in Huckleberry Finn because, like, I forgot what they were doing, but like Huck needed I forgot his name. Tom Sawyer's friend. Needed Tom Sawyer's help with
We're
something.
forgetting names.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like, I think he had Huckleberry Finn
How we've not had a Mark Twain cinematic universe yet?
because there's a lot of N words in those books,
Oh yeah. Mm.
and
Thank you for bringing that one up.
they're not like
But,
racy. Like that's how they talked back then. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, kind of like how like people try to get To Kill a Mockingbird removed from the school book reading because it just casually drops it. Which,
yeah,
like, yeah, it's cringe now, but like at the same time, it's like you can't
that's
censor what people talk like during the freaking past.
yeah. You
Like that used to
censor
just be,
history. Yeah,
yeah.
you're
When you
doing
censor
more harm than good.
history, it even doubles down you. When you censor history, it doubles down even more harder on you of repeating the past very much.
Yep.
So always learn your history to never repeat it, and don't censor it. Otherwise, it's going to bite you back in the ass 10 times fold.
And understand the
Uh,
nuances of situations. You know, like not everything has hate behind it. Like if you're learning
yeah,
something, like
yeah, that's the whole point.
you're
Books are to
learning
learn. They're
facts
not
and
just for
information. You know,
they're just not for sheer entertainment. They're there for learn. You're supposed to learn lessons. And I understand when it comes to certain books that have been banned, that people like apparently, from what I heard, though, I've never heard of a freaking student or a kid ever sit there say this book made me feel uncomfortable. And it's like, well, yeah, it should. It's racism. It's like this book's supposed to tell you how bad the racism is. It's like you're not supposed to say yay or anything. It's like, no, oh god, this is so horrible. We should not, as a society, be like this anymore. It doesn't mean burn the book. No, it doesn't mean that, because you're missing the point and what the book is trying to tell you. But you know, I always sit there and say, folks, if it's on a ban list, read the book, because there's always something being hidden from you. Um, and that's my TED talk on conspiracy theories. So yeah, back to the return. Clarence gains his wings, and George has a new appreciation of life. Um, George gets the uh, Huckleberry Finn, right? Or Tom
yeah,
Sawyer. I just fucking forgot the book. It's one of
Huck,
them.
Huck,
But he ends up getting like a little note, from Clarence in there, which is very touching. And when George is holding his daughter and they hear a bell ring off of the tree, you get the iconic line, every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. And he looks up at the sky and he's like, thank you, Clarence. And I think like one of them was like who? I was like, nothing. And I was like, I'm talking to a friend. And it's all
nothing,
like,
sweetie.
yeah, nothing, sweetie. It's like, oh, here
Just
here comes,
brush it
yeah.
off. Dad's been acting weird all weekend or
Pretty
all
much.
evening. You know.
It's been a stressful week for Dad, so just let him have this moment. And then it's I think it's all on Sang or something like that. What was the uh I am determined to sit there and know what the fuck the name of the song. What were they singing? Yeah, Auld Long Sing. That was the name of it. I just can't pronounce it correctly because language is hard, folks. But yeah, they sing that in the Peanuts, Charlie Brown's Christmas. Maybe we need to cover that in the future Christmas. That's like actually a really really good. Outside of like it being like a children's thing, I never thought I could relate to a fucking Charlie Brown cartoon than that. Like that is the perfect picture of how to deal with seasonal depression and finding your place during the holidays. You know, it's a lot smarter than what people give it credit to. It's a very very smart story. But yeah, it's a wonderful life. George wins, Potter's defeated, Clarence gets his wings. It's a nice feel good story.
Town is saved.
Exactly. What do you think about this story, Chris? What are
Super
your
cheesy,
likes and
man.
dislikes? I
Super
fucking love
cheesy,
it.
bro.
I love the cheese. Just like the cheese in a can. Just put that baby in my mouth and just pull the trigger.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, this is another movie that, like, I never, like, saw all the way through. Like, I guess Christmas movies, old timey Christmas movies, have never really been my thing. Like, Christmas Story was kind of one of the few ones I've ever watched. I still haven't seen A Miracle on 34th Street, but like, I know what the plot
You
is,
gotta
I
watch that.
guess.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
But like, I mean, it's a nice little story. I mean, a lot of the storytelling mechanics are probably not what we would see today. Like,
Oh, by far none. Yeah.
yeah, but
I kind of do wish that they sometimes came back. At least let it be a fresh of breath air, because it's like, oh yeah, we saw this like back in the. This was what, the 40s, I believe so.
yeah, 40s, mid 40s.
Yeah, and yeah, it's like
It's not fast paced, but like, and it benefits from
it's a
that of like
journey.
you
It's
letting
like
this story
it's a
breathe.
very visual novel, but at the same time, books like this and Citizen Kane, um, and Vampire, they were very much treated as an actual book come to life.
Yeah,
You know, that's how I like to see a lot of these films. Most people look at it as like, it's too slow. I was like, you're watching a novel at work. Enjoy it for what it is, because it may seem slow now, but when you start picking up on the little nuances of what it's doing, you'll learn to appreciate it a little bit better. That's what I take away a lot from it. Now I know like a lot of people are like, well, it has to be hard hitting. It's got to be now. It's got to be now. It's like I think that's kind of the issue with cinema. It's too crash bang, get our attention. Like yeah, you can still get our attention, but you can slowly pull us into a story. It doesn't always have to be Michael Bay CGI or James Cameron blue Smurfs and trees, and it doesn't always have to be the MCU and Disney slowly taking over all of Hollywood.
yeah.
I'm waiting for the day whenever they buy Universal so that the Bride of Frankenstein is now considered a princess.
I think that's the best
The
idea, man. Like, you, Disney's kind of you got kind of want to like keep Disney away from as many properties as
Universal monsters.
possible. Like, everything Disney seems to like buy seems to kind of snowball into crap real
I
fast.
don't know. I like the Predator prequel Prey,
It's all
and that was kind of
right.
under the Disney. I don't know how long that was under the Disney belt. If like maybe that was already a project before the merger and
Yeah,
buyout. I have no clue. I would actually have to go look into that. But like if that was all under Disney's supervision of all like, yeah, you guys go do this and everything, and I know like a lot of people always bitch. It's like, oh,
I feel
fucking
like if
Disney's
it,
gonna ruin all. It's like, no, not really. Disney has owned a lot of our classic stuff that like we all still love and treasure, and
yeah,
they produced it through like a Buena Vista, which that's what they allow for like their either they're outside their normal Disney formula, or if they wanted something that was like a little bit more adult. Like,
yeah,
I grew up with DreamWorks with Shrek, and then when I saw the Lady Killers remake by DreamWorks, and what words were dropped in there, because the N word was dropped in that one, there was a lot of shit dropped in that one, and I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is DreamWorks. And yeah, I forgot where the other production company or studio, but yeah, So just because it may look like sunshine and rainbows coming out of the unicorn's ass and everything, and it's like, doesn't sit there mean that that company can pull out some of like the most outrageous shit ever. Um, so you know, uh, back to you, Chris, again, the likes and dislikes. It's
uh,
cheesy.
I mean, it's cheesy, but it's also fun, and like you don't get a lot of that. Like, I feel like a lot of this stuff probably would have been watered down, like especially like the flirting and like you just know like the whole scene with George and Mary on their little stroll in the little neighborhood, and her
She gets
losing
her
her
dress
towel.
ripped off and she's hiding in a
Yeah,
bush.
she, and George is like
Just shut
sort of
up and
playfully
kiss her
like
already.
acting like he's gonna take advantage and start a little show and get the boys to like take pictures of her and stuff. Like, today people were like, "Well, that's sexist. How could he do that? Men are so gross." Like,
Hashtag cancel George Bailey.
yeah, so like just shit like that in this day and age
Which
wouldn't
I
fly.
yeah, yeah.
But like, it's just that's why you gotta like watch old movies like this to
I
just
still appreciate the
have
living
fun.
hell out of this, you
Yeah,
know. Like I would never probably sit there and take advantage of my partner. Like if something snagged, it's all like I would be that one. It's like, oh, okay, and all good, funny jest, haha, you're hiding in the bush. It's like I would wrap it around, but also too throughout the walk home, I probably bust your balls until she kicks me in mine,
yeah.
and then we're square probably. Oh my god, but yeah, no, there is a lot to appreciate with this. Yeah, sure, there are probably some moments that most people today, but at the same time too, um, I think we also kind of have to like not really give those people that attention because I feel like people who are like, oh, we got to cancel because of this. I think it just cries for attention. It's not really even the source material of itself. Like, yeah, there are certain things. It's like, oh my god, that's fucking horrible. Yeah, maybe we should we should reassess this. And but when it comes to like the littlest stupid things, it's like, really,
Just another
did you sit on your ass
nuance of
long
this is
enough
nuance of the
hearing,
situation people aren't grasping.
yeah, just
Just like
it,
"Baby, It's
it,
Cold Outside." Like people don't understand the nuance in that song.
well, it's like what Bill Burr sat there and mentioned it. It's all like, uh, because God, I fucking love Bill Burr when he talks about fucking cancer culture and the bullshit. He's like, it's fucking stupid. And I just fucking laugh and everything, and because mostly he's so brutally honest and he's so fucking true. But he sat there and mentions it's like, yes, give me your complete uh opinion about a complex situation you just learned an hour ago. Bam, that's cancer culture right there in a nutshell.
Yep.
And didn't really mean to get to that part on Christmas. We're supposed to be, singing all along sing, but I don't know the lyrics, and Chris isn't a good singer. So
My
we
harmony is off, and I don't have the rhythm to dance. So
fa la 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 ka-ching.
all I can do is critique and see
Yeah,
how good or bad something is.
but
Yeah.
yeah, this is a perfect opening for our Christmas double feature for this month, Chris. I definitely enjoy this. Like, I had so much fun. I'm one of those people that, yeah, like I haven't even, well, by the time that this hit, I will be 30 by the time that this episode releases. Shit. Holy fuck, I feel old. What have I been doing with my life? It's a Wonderful Life, but what the
Just
fuck have I been
age in
doing?
reverse. What are you talking about? Just
I can't
go.
Benjamin Button, okay? Like, I don't want to
Brad
look
Pitt
like a
can do
fucking
it. You
prune.
can do it.
Fucking Brad Pitt also whooped Bruce Lee's ass, and I doubt I can do that.
Find out why
I'd be
Paul
that
Rudd isn't aging. See what his secret is.
because he keeps jumping into the quantum realm, Chris. God, you don't watch the Ant-Man movies.
I didn't know that was a literal biopic. I didn't know that was a documentary. I thought it was just like
but but yeah, like I just have a very big love and appreciation for classic films. I know not many people do, and most of it's because a lot of them it's black and white, it's old, and it's all like it's fucking 100 times better than what the fuck is getting shit out today. It's like this is where it all originated from. This is where the art came from, and this is where again I get on my horse of cinema of where I'm on the side of Martin Scorsese, but at the same time, I do understand that there is a certain place for popcorn cinema. As much as he hates the MCU, it's popcorn cinema. It's not meant to be thought provoking.
yeah,
This is. It's a Wonderful Life is a thought provoking film. We need more thought provoking films. Um, and to be honest, we don't really get that all that much. Like we get some really interesting ones that are like, oh, that's actually a really nice way. I would never think of projecting trauma in this form of a film or projecting this set of real life events through a fictitious way. There are some very interesting ways, but I kind of feel like there's not so much cinema out there that can actually make you feel. Um, my partner got me to sit there and watch this one very weird Swedish, yeah, I think it was Swedish film. It's a romance film about two people. I'm not lying to you. About two people who find love in a butcher shop. That's the cliff notes of it. What it is, it's like this woman who has a certain spectrum of autism. She works. It's kind of more like in the area of the meat of the meat factory where she measures like the like she grades the meat, and the guy that she falls in love with, he's kind of like her boss and everything. Um, he has like a legit actual uh what is it a character flaw in himself that like his arm is messed up, and I think it was because of a work accident, and it's kind of knotted. But either way, these two have these dreams where they are deer in the forest next to this trickling little stream, and that's how like they fall in love. They fall in love through these dreams, and they realize that they have the same dream about each other as deer. Yeah, it's fucking out there, but I guarantee you, like, if my partner was here, I'd have fucking kissed her so much, because it's like I love this. I love this form of cinema, and she always finds some of the best movies for me to watch. Um, a man named Ove, which by the time that this episode comes out, the American remake, A Man Called Otto, will be out. But I saw A Man Called Ove on Tubi, and oh my god, that was a thought provoking, heartwarming, great piece of comedy. Like I don't like I like Tom Hanks, but I don't know if Tom Hanks can actually beat what the original did. I mean, but to me, I love this form of cinema as much as I love my diehards, my Alien versus Predator, my Captain America versus the Universe. Um, they have yet to make that movie yet. I'm still holding out that Chris Evans returns as Old Man Cap. Um, don't fucking
Never gonna
judge me,
happen.
Chris.
Never gonna happen.
I want Old Man Cap versus the Marvel Universe, and Daredevil, not Daredevil. Deadpool has to narrate it. You know, it's all like back in my day, Chris Evans was known to have a banana between his ass cheeks.
Get a
Again,
little whipped
connecting back to our
cream.
Knives Out episode, right?
Yeah.
And then when Deadpool gets a little too much into it, Wolverine's like, "Shut up and fucking finish the actual movie." And like, yeah. Anyway, we're like trailing off, folks. I'm actually not apologizing, because I enjoy all this. I really do love this form of cinema. I love when cinema can make you feel. Um, I definitely felt it when I went to go see Elvis with my mom. Like, I wasn't a huge Elvis fan. I always sat there and sung In the Ghetto because of Cartman.
Yeah.
But yeah, like after I saw that movie, I was like, wow. It's like, for me, it was like, ooh, god, this movie's freaking long. But like, I sat through the Batman, so I can't bitch. Uh, and I love the Batman. But yeah, like when I saw that, I was like, oh my god, I can't believe that Tom Hanks, who one is playing the villain, was like, fucking asshole. How dare he do it to Elvis? Now he died on the shitter. It's like, it's, I like movies like that.
Still need to watch that Elvis movie.
It's a really good one. Um, I did not think that Austin Butler was going to sit there and really knock it out of the park, because it's like, oh, he's a Disney star. Not many Disney stars can actually really do that. But you know what? Like, he proved me wrong. He definitely proved me wrong. And now my Spotify playlist for the last couple of weeks has been mixed up of Ghost and Elvis. So I'll be sitting there, dancing while, doing dishes to like fucking Elvis, and then all of a sudden I'm spooky with Ghost. Um, yeah, that's my mindset for for like the past couple of weeks. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, Chris, where can we find you on the socials?
Zealous Slacker. Instagram, Twitter, blog. Zealous Slacker.
God, Chris, such enthusiasm.
I know.
Folks, you can find me at the Gothic Storyteller on Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, YouTube. Got my socials down. Yeah, like a fucking champ. It just took me 11 fucking episodes to do it. At least of the main one. And with that, folks, I hope you guys are having a wonderful, wonderful holiday. We'll be kind of returning in the following weeks to a sort of bed I was about to say Bedford Falls story. It is the early story of a very beloved Christmas classic. I don't know if we're going to cover both the early draft and the final.
I think we should,
Just for the
just
movie.
because like it's
You think we
so
should?
different. I
We
mean,
want to keep this a little, because it's a Christmas gift. We're
yeah.
we're teasing you a little bit with this, but I will sit there and tell you this: is the setting is very much almost like this. It's like a Bedford Falls. The director is Joe Dante, and it's probably one of the best Christmas comedy horrors ever made. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful holidays, and don't stop watching movies. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye bye.